Hey, my Legion, how y'all doing today? Filming this on a Sunday, it's actually kind of weird because we have the effects of Hurricane Gordon. I mean, it rained all day, nothing horrible, but it's cool. Now, after horrible heat waves last Wednesday through Friday, or what was it, Tuesday through Thursday, or something like that, and I actually had to turn the heat on because it was cold in here for about an hour or so, and I shut it back off. And I'm here today to devote dedicated video to my friend Christopher Sposa, who has been he's been sending me links to forgotten movies from the 80s and 90s. Um, and he sent me two, like, I think it was last Labor Day, for Zoo Radio and Master of the Menace. And these were both made in 1990. And I want to review both of them. These are like obscure movie reviews. Because I never heard of either one of these movies. Now, I wanted to apologize for the first half of the review. And the first half is the movie called Zoo Radio. And basically, this is directed by Jay Roach. I don't know if he's related to Hal Roach. Because I'm a big Hal Roach fan. Hal Roach used to do like Lowell and Hardy and Little Rascal and stuff like that. I don't know if he's related to Hal Roach. I couldn't find that on IMDb. But I mean, he went on to direct like a lot of successful movies, but this was not one of them. And this was like an obscure film. I never heard of Zoo Radio at all. I didn't reckon. Well, I mean, I recognized one guy that was. I didn't know his name, and I guess that the link on YouTube, someone commented saying that they don't know why it wasn't released on DVD. I know why. It sucks. It's about. It's a comedy about two radio stations, and basically they're brothers, and their dad left the will and saying like, whoever from this day forth. It was K Win and K Lose. Those were the two radio stations. And, they have like 6 months to see who gets the most ad revenue. And whoever gets the most ad revenue will get their fortune. And then they will be the owner. The winner of that will be the owner of the other station. That station, the other station. And basically, K's Lose. There's this one guy one unusual DJ that does all these voices and stuff like that. That's a big hit. Not with me. He's so annoying. I mean, like the one thing is run like Animal House, and the other one's more like trying to do stuff that. I mean, it doesn't. All the characters are one dimensional. The humor is terrible. I said Doctor Alien, which I haven't put the video up yet. Painfully unfunny. This is really painfully unfunny, but also not likable or believable at all. Like you have reactions where like guys telling jokes, he's doing all these voices and stuff, lame accents and stuff. And people laughing, well, and he's spraying. It didn't even make any. Then, like I said, we paused for this warning for the national alarm, and then the guy screaming. The guy's like, and then you see a guy watch the radio go like this. I mean, it's awful. It's awful. I couldn't take it. I mean, no offense to Christopher Sposa, but I didn't like this movie at all. It really sucked. I was gonna give it a 0 out of 10, but because it was like. This is like those type of comedies you might see at the video rental store. The video rental store is real popular, and I passed over them. Along with a couple movies I wish I would have rented. Frankenstein General Hospital, which I wish I would have rented. At the time I saw it, I didn't think it looked good, or I thought there was too much influx of those. Now it's like, I wouldn't mind seeing those movies just because of the nostalgia factor. You know what I mean? Because those were the movies. The ones I'm really nostalgic about were the times where I was in the Army going to the video rental store. And there was that, and there was another one called Beverly Hills Body Snatchers. I wish I would have gotten that one too. If I can find them, I'll definitely do reviews of them, But at the time, I wasn't interested. Also, what's that one that Scott Valentine was in, Demon Lover, and also probably Monster High, the movie. And those are ones I never rented because I thought they'd be lame at the time. But I won't mind seeing it, but this one was awful. Like I said, I was going to give it 0 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 0.5 out of 10, but it's terrible. I want to apologize, Christopher Sposa, for this negative review. Now, the other movie was Master of the Menace, and this was much better. I mean, I don't care about it whether it had a record. I like dumb humor and stuff like this, but this was like, humor is a weird balancing act. I mean, this just wasn't funny. But Master of the Menace had some funny parts in it. It revolves around this motorcycle gang led by Dave Roush. I think that's how you pronounce the name, of Sledgehammer fame. Now, I have a story about him I'm going to save for the end of the video. And he has a game called gang called well, this is like motorcycle gang called Road Masters, I think. And they were going to go to jail. This one district attorney's out to get them, and the judge said, "Well, I sentenced you all to 3 years in prison, but I'm going to make it 3 years probation. You get your act together. But if you have one violation, not even a speeding ticket, you're going to go straight to jail." And Dave Roush's wife was played by Catherine Bach of the real Daisy Duke from Dukes of Hazzard, which was awesome. And you see some other people. The guy who played Squeaky from Lenny and Squeaky was in there, and some other people. Terry Copley, whose career never really took off. The beautiful one who was in We Got It Made that the critics hated, which I was a big fan of back then. Played the stripper this one place, but that's a tease. They don't really show anything. And basically, as soon as they're done, they go back to it looks like a frat house or something like that, and they party a lot. And their one friend, played by Jim Belushi, drives on his motor, and they said he exploded, but the way they showed it was terrible. And they were going to take his friend cross county to Vegas, but they weren't allowed to leave the county line or anything like that. They weren't allowed to have anybody, and they were breaking law left and right. There was one scene where Lenny was eating these eggs, and the guy said, he was sneaking them, and then someone else was going to email and say, "Oh man, don't eat those eggs. I was going to throw them out. If you would do it, you'll be on the crap for a long time." And that was humor right there, bathroom, and they didn't really utilize that at all. That was a shame. Later on in the movie, you see George Buck Flower playing the sheriff. He's hilarious. Now, from just about that and the road trip to Vegas to bury their friend, I'd probably gotta give it a mild 7 out of 10 because it was likable. It was only somewhat funny. George Buck Flower was hilarious in it though. And then they had the special guest appearances, like I said, halfway through. Well, except for Jim Belushi, which is in the first. And they had 4 great special guest appearances. I was shocked and floored. Like halfway through, John Candy's in the movie. That made it for me. That rose the rating to 8 out of 10, and then they weren't done. Like in the third act, George went, which is all right seeing him. You know, I mean, he didn't really hit it big, but then Dan Aykroyd was right with him, and that was awesome. This was a very likable film, somewhat funny. I mean, but George Buck Flower is funny in anything. Playing the sheriff, old sheriff. I give it a 8 out of 10 for Master of the Menace. And I wanted to thank Christopher Sposa for sharing these videos with me. I also wanted to mention the story with David Roush. I have a story about him. Like I said, I was a big fan of Sledgehammer. I like that type of series. That came off that silly type thing. Because Police Squad, before Naked Gun came out, Police Squad was on TV for a little bit. It didn't do very well on TV. And then Sledgehammer came out, and that was a big hit, and that was like silly humor like Police Squad and stuff like that. And then I remember in Germany renting a movie, Best Defense, he was in a part of that, and he was all right in that. And then they were showing on AFN, they were showing Sledgehammer. A lot of people, kids, I don't know why, they hated this type of comedy. They said, "This show is stupid." I always thought it was funny. Dad thought it was funny. And I remember my dad bought me a 4-episode VHS tape called Best of Sledgehammer. I remember let my Uncle Wayne borrow it. He never saw the show before. Boy, what's this show? It was hilarious. And then I said, I never heard of this movie. And I remember the part that makes it interesting with David Roush is he was in the very last movie I ever saw on the military theater. And that was Bingo. And that was like because they always had like, they didn't show movies like they did in Fort Gore, Georgia. They just had one show a night, you know. And then Saturdays, they had a Saturday afternoon show at 2 o'clock. And that was the only time I ever went to a Saturday was Bingo was playing there. And this was like a week or two before I left Fort Bragg to go home. I remember seeing it. It was a great movie with Cindy Williams. It was like a family-friendly movie about a dog. And I liked it. I mean, him and Cindy Williams was in it. And I hadn't seen Cindy Williams for a long time because she left Laverne Shirley because she got pregnant. And then it was just Laverne, Peggy Marshall on the show for a while. But it was cool seeing him, and that was the last thing. He was in the last movie I saw in the military theater. And the one thing about Burt Reynolds, I forgot to mention, with his passing, like I said, I saw Rent-A-Cop in the theater, and I saw Rent-A-Cop on a plane going to Germany. So I saw it twice. I forgot to mention I saw it on a plane. He was in the only movie I ever saw on a plane. Well, I mean, he was. I saw him in a movie on a plane too, in a little theater they had in the plane. You know, which was like a big screen. You had to pay $4 for the headphones. Going there and back was no big deal. So I hope you like this review of 2 obscure movie reviews of Zoo Radio and Masters of Menace. And I think that's about it. Yeah, like I said, I was blown away seeing John Candy again. Dan Aykroyd and George Wendt, and Jim Belushi, but John Candy, that was fantastic. So I hope you like this video, everybody. Until next time, please. Take care, my Legion. Thank you, Chris, for sharing me these links.